Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the last week or so. And as is usual, we always have a packed agenda because Guyana is a very dynamic society, and in any given week we have a number of issues of great importance that are deserving of our discussion. I want to begin by sending good evening greetings to all those beautiful people on the west coast of Berbice, Mahaika, Maikoni, who are joining us on television, New Amsterdam, Quarantine, who are joining us on television. Good evening and welcome to this program. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome our listeners and viewers who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Rob Street, Georgetown. Welcome to the program and good evening. And last but not least, the thousands who are joining us on Facebook Live right across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and further afield. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And please share this program, press that share button on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, so that the program is shared to the widest possible audience. So please call a friend, message a fan, message a relative, and invite them to join us in tonight's discussion. Press share and share that program. Share the program to your page, share the program to your account so that we have the widest possible audience and participation. I want to begin by acknowledging what you are experiencing and what you are witnessing. That is the unfolding of our Because We Care cash grant distribution across the length and breadth of our country. You will recall that we started this program in 2011 to 2015 when we were in government during that period, and at that time we were distributing $10,000 to every child in a public school to assist with transportation and the acquisition of uniform and other important materials for schools. And we did that right across the length and breadth of our country in, I believe, 2013, 2014, and I don't think we got to do it in 2015 because that year was the election year. We lost the government in 2015, and the incoming APNU AFC scrapped that program. They scrapped the program. We promised that once elected, during the 2020 elections campaign, we included it in our manifesto, and we said that once we are elected, we will not only restore the program, but we will increase the cash grant per child. In delivering on that promise, we are now unfolding the first installment of this Because We Care cash grant distribution of $19,000 per child in a public school. $19,000 per child in a public school right across the length and breadth of this country. And we said that we will do it next year and we will give a greater sum. And then the following year we will do it again and we will do a greater sum. And we will do it the following year until we reach about approximately $50,000 per child in our educational system. We are now in the process of addressing our minds to extending this program to extend to students in our private school system. I want to repeat that for emphasis. We are considering extending this program to every child in a private school so that all of our children, both in the public and in the private school system, will benefit from this cash grant program. Now, as I have said, right across this country where I go, as part of this program must not be looked at in isolation. It must be put into a context. You will recall that when we took government, we inherited 200 new tax measures, draconian tax measures imposed upon the backs of the Guyanese people. We committed to reverse those tax measures. Those tax measures denied and deprived Guyanese of billions and billions of dollars in disposable income. Those tax measures included VAT on electricity, VAT on water, VAT on school supplies, VAT on medical supplies, VAT on a number of school items, a number of groceries and household foodstuff items which were previously not VATable. VAT on building materials, VAT on agricultural equipment and heavy-duty equipment. All of those areas, all of those goods, VAT was imposed on. In addition to that, every single licensing fees was increased by thousands of percentage. MMA, land rents, and irrigation and drainage charges were moved from $3,000 per acre to $15,000 per acre. We had to dismantle all those draconian measures as we promised to do. And we have done it. There are still some, very few left, but we are going to do it. Complete demolition of this aggregate of draconian measures, which, when put together, denied and deprived the Guyanese population of billions and billions of dollars of disposable income. So we have done all of that, and we have given back to the Guyanese people several $billion through these measures. In addition to that, we have increased public sector salaries by 5%. We have granted a COVID-19 relief measures of $20,000 to every employee in the public sector, including the the sugar workers. Then in addition to that, we have granted 25,000 COVID grant cash to every family right across the length and breadth of Guyana. So on the one hand, we have denied ourselves billions of dollars in revenue that the other government used to collect. When we scrap all those tax measures, we lost revenue. But that revenue went back to the people in the form of extra cash or disposable income. So while we are losing in the treasury, we are giving back billions. And then I have outlined the other measures, the COVID-19 25,000, the COVID-19 20,000, the 5% increase in public servant salaries, and now, in addition to all of those measures, we now have $19,000 per child in the public school system, and we are extending it to the private school system. This singular measure is giving back to the people, giving back to our population, $3 billion. This is the government returning to the people $3 billion in cash grants for them to spend on their children's education, for them to spend on their children's uniform and on their school needs. Where are we getting this money from? We are operating in a global pandemic of the worst kind ever seen in living memory. We are operating in a country that has been devastated by floodwaters. Our productive sectors have been greatly affected by floodwaters. Millions and billions, not millions, billions of our agriculture sector have gone down in floodwaters. The sugar industry continues to employ people. The gold industry not performing as we would like them to perform. Bauxite barely surviving. We are undergoing a global recession because of COVID-19. Production all over the world has reduced significantly. Guyana is part of this global economy. So the recession is affecting us. There is a great shortage of building supplies, of food supplies, and for almost every item, every goods, there is a shortage of as a result of the global pandemic. Because people are not working in their full force across the globe. In that environment, we are able to give back to our people as a government billions and billions of dollars. The question must be asked, where are we getting this money from? I have repeatedly pointed out that not a dollar has yet been used from the oil money. That is in the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And we have not taken any money from it. Where is the money coming from? Well, let me tell you where the money is coming from. It is coming from the halting of this quandarmania that took place under the APNU AFC. It is coming from the absence of corruption that permeated government from 2015 to 2020. $2 billion per year they used to spend as extra money for food in government, dietary, that one singular budget. They used to fly to Ireland for medical treatment. Ireland, fly first class. It costs 5,000 US or more per ticket. And that's just to get to the hospital. That's $1 million or more just traveling. Then they have to stay at hotels. They have to be taken to the hospital. And they traveled around the world as though traveling was going out of style. Every time, every week, 6, 7 ministers out of the country. You used to see the parties in Brooklyn and in various places in the diaspora. Well, all that is finished. And the monies saved from these wastages, the monies that used to be given out to cronies, they are like $200 million for a feasibility study for the bridge, and none was done. 400,000 US dollars paid for scales for the Harbour Bridge. No scales received. And you will see, I will speak about that more during the course of next week. Those are only 2 examples. That is the money, my friends. That is the money that is no longer being wasted and is being returned to the people, handed out to the people in the form of these various initiatives to which I have made reference. That is why the more we deliver on these promises, the louder the noises that are coming from the opposition. They are running mad when they see the delivery of these promises. So they said that it is a waste of money. One of them said it's a waste of money. Imagine investing in our children's education is a waste of money. According to them, I would have thought that a responsible opposition would have called upon the government to demand a greater sum to be paid. Not 19,000, but 40,000. Not this incompetent bunch. They say that we are wasting the money. And that is why I keep saying to you, we don't need opposition of this type. They do nothing for anybody. Aubrey Norton, who wants to be the leader of the PNC, says that we are developing a dependent syndrome. These guys, I don't know if they don't have anything to say, if something is wrong with being silent. Nothing is wrong with not saying anything, rather than say something that makes you sound so stupid. Something that is so outrageous. By giving our people cash grant, they say, according to Norton, our people are going to become dependent. They were planning openly to share out 1,000 US of the oil money to every single Guyanese every month. Recall that? They were discussing it openly. How much? Should we give 1,000? Should we give more to every single Guyanese? They were discussing that. Now we are offering our children and our parents in a seriously affected economy, an environment in which our parents and our children are grappling with floodwaters and are grappling with a serious pandemic, when people can't get jobs, when businesses are not opening to their full potential and not operating at their full potential. In that kind of environment, we are offering relief. And these jokers, this pack of jokers are saying that we will create a dependency syndrome and that we are wasting money, we shouldn't do it. The truth of the matter is, they had 5 years and they didn't give $1. We are giving $19,000. We are giving 19,000 more than they gave for their 5 years. So it's hurting them. So you see, Coretta McDonald is leading a union into protest, leading the teachers into protests. Our teachers are doing a remarkable job in organizing these events where this distribution of cash grant is taking place. As they did in the organization of our scholarship goal program. 7,000 applications were received in that scholarship program. We anticipated 5,000. Well, we received 7,000. So it was a tremendous success. And our teachers and Ministry of Education officials arranged outreaches which accommodated ministers and enabled ministers to speak to the people of our country, to encourage them to come on board the government scholarship program. These things are hurting the opposition. So they want to create a diversion. They want to create a distraction. So they want to encourage people to strike, the teachers to strike. Well, our teachers have better sense. And obviously, our teachers are going to ignore them. But as I said, we will continue to remain focused. We will continue to stick to our manifesto and to deliver the promises that we have pledged to our people. We will not be distracted by the naysayers, and we will not be distracted by the baseless and reckless criticisms that are emanating from an irrelevant and incompetent opposition. We will leave them to become irrelevant, to become more irrelevant and incompetent. So today, I was at Rossignol Secondary School, where hundreds of families, parents, guardians, teachers, and students assembled, and some $20 million in cash was distributed at that one location, Rossignol Secondary School. I then went to Blairmont Primary School, where I participated in another such venture. And my colleague ministers are doing the same right across the length and breadth of our country. And as I like to remind, that is our style of government. It's not that we don't think that our education ministry officials are incompetent, or that Minister Manik Chand cannot execute this program by herself. That is not the issue. We know that Minister Manik Chand is quite competent to execute this program, and the ministry officials and our teachers are quite competent to do this. But the entire government is going out into the fields because that is the style of government to which we have committed ourselves. Going out and meeting the people, going out and hearing what the people have to say, going out and understanding the concerns of the people. That's the most effective way of being in a position to properly and comprehensively and effectively address the concerns and the issues of the people. And that is the style of government that we are committed to. We are not like the other side. Every village I go, every location that I speak at, I ask the people. I say between 2015 and 2020, how many ministers visited this location? And you know what the answer always is? None. Zero. And then I point out to them that from August 2020 to July 2021, and I count how many ministers, starting with the president, who would have visited that very place, just in 1 year. Just in 1 year, 5, 6, 7, 8 ministers visit one locality. And in 5 years, no one in government visited. That is the difference in the style of government. That is the difference in the philosophy of government between the two governments. And that will not change. And you are seeing every day the performance of the government and ministers at work, and what the ministers are doing, and what they are doing, and how what they are doing can benefit the people and can advance the welfare of the country. And then on the other hand, you see the opposition and you see the path of destruction that they are traversing, the path of division that they are pursuing in this country. So there is no comparison between the two. I must inform you that up to now, no one from the New York Police Department made contact with me. You all are aware that there is a mad, insane bunch in New York publishing whole day on the internet and on the Facebook that I'm wanted by the New York police. I keep saying the New York police is not an insane bunch of people. They will never bother and investigate any complaint lodged by people who have mental health problems. I am here and I'm going back to America shortly, and we will see again. So I just thought that I'll pause here to update you that as usual, it is madness. The allegation is baseless and completely without merit, and obviously it is being ignored. So all the writings to the congressmen and all the writings to the senators and all the writings to the White House, every single one of them is being ignored. And not a single credible news agency carrying any of these stories. That should tell you that the world recognizes, everyone recognizes the mental health situation going on with these people. So I ask you to dismiss them completely, and I thank you very much for those of you who have expressed concerns. You should not have. You should know better. These people are mad people. So let's continue. Today, the Police Service, the defunct and suspended Police Service Commission instituted proceedings in the High Court questioning a decision of His Excellency the President to suspend the commission. I have not yet been served with the proceedings. I presume that the Attorney General would be the respondent, and I will be served in due course. I suppose that it's part of our democracy. It's part of the legal rights of those who have been suspended to challenge the decision to suspend them. That is a right that they have, and that's a right that I respect. So I'm happy, well, I'm not happy, but I anticipated that they will go this route, and it's their democratic and legal right to do so. I will deal with the matter in court, and I'll explain the nature of the proceedings when I receive them. But the point is that that is the way if one wishes to challenge a decision made by a public officer, more so one made by the head of state. Certainly, the law does not permit you to arrogate unto yourself a power to ignore that decision. And that is where I parted company with Paul Slow and his team. Paul Slow and his team must recognize, at least when this government is in power, the Constitution will be complied with and the rule of law will be respected. And when the president makes a decision or a minister makes a decision, whether he is right or whether he is wrong, in law is a matter for only the court to decide. However, the rule of law requires and demands that you respect that decision until it is rescinded either by the decision maker or by a competent authority who has the power and the jurisdiction to rescind that decision. So when Mr. Slow and his team were writing the secretary to the commission, instructing him to proceed with this promotion list that they have assembled, and Mr. Slow was writing the commissioner of police, instructing him to proceed to promote a list of officers assembled by Slow and his team, they were completely wrong, and their demands were completely unlawful and were properly and rightfully ignored. And I said that from the inception. You have a problem with a decision, you go to the court. You may win, I'm not sure. But that is the place to resolve the legality of issues. If every one of us decides to take upon ourselves the power to determine legality, then that will result in anarchy. The Constitution has identified the courts as the forum for the resolution of all legal disputes. So at least Paul Slow and his team got that right. Moving on, the scenario at GECOM is becoming more and more bizarre. You are aware that Mr. Lowenfield, as he did in trying to block the statements of Paul from being given to state prosecutors to prosecute offenses against him, is now seeking in the court to block GECOM from dismissing him. You know, there is one area in the law where specific performance is not a remedy. There's one type of contract where you cannot get specific performance. It is in employment contracts. Specific performance means that a court can compel one party of the contract to perform the terms of the contract. And that principle applies to every contract other than an employment contract. And that is the wisdom of the law at work. The principle and rationale being very commonsensical that you cannot force an employer to employ anyone, and you cannot force an employee to work for an employer that he does not want to work for. And that is what Lowenfield lawyers seem not to understand. You cannot compel GECOM to continue to employ you. The law doesn't work that way. You can't compel anyone, or you can't prevent anyone from dismissing you. You may get damages for wrongful dismissal. But the power to dismiss is not restrained by the law. And no one, the law will never compel a person to hire a person or compel a worker to work for a particular employer if the worker says no. These are known exceptions in law. So Lowenfield is embarking on a journey that is absolutely futile. But that aside, the three GECOM commissioners who the world saw were in partnership with and in conspiracy with Lowenfield Myers and Mingo, in their attempts to thwart the elections, in their attempt to rig the elections, in their attempts to pervert the elections, those three obviously will not support the dismissal of their cohorts. They will not support the motions that seek to remove their co-conspirators. After all, they were all acting in concert. They were all part and parcel of the same design, which was to thief the government for APNU AFC to continue in office. So when I read in the news that Alexander and Corbyn and Trotman walk out of the GECOM meeting, I can't be surprised. I am not surprised, and no one should be surprised. They are all peas in the same pot. They are all in the same flock. They are all guilty of attempting to steal elections. So they are going to band together. My problem is, why is the motion not being proceeded with? Once the motion is on the floor, the next decision is to debate it and vote upon it and complete it. These three will never agree. A vote will have to be taken. And the quicker that is done, the better for everyone. So I don't understand why the meeting had to have been adjourned. I don't understand why. I will have to read the newspapers tomorrow and try to see if I get a reason. Because from the beginning, common sense would tell you that these three would never have supported the motion. So get it over with. It has to go to a vote. It has to go to a vote. It's either voted down or successfully voted upon. There's no 2-3 ways in this. And that three will vote in support of Lowenfield, Myers, and Mingo. You don't need a lawyer to tell you that. That's common sense. So I, again, can't provide an explanation as to why there has been an adjournment and why the thing was not proceeded with. So I believe they lost quorum when the three people walked out. Well, the law provides for a mechanism in relation to GECOM. They can meet again and the matter can convene again and then decisions can be made in the absence of the three. I hope that that will be the direction in which they will be going. Importantly, on the COVID-19 front, we seem to be forgetting that the COVID-19 pandemic is still with us and very much with us. But as of Monday, 50% of our population would have been vaccinated. As of yesterday, we passed the 50% mark in our population, adult population, for the purpose of vaccination. And I believe that that is a remarkable accomplishment. We have to reopen our country fully. We have to get our children back into schools. We have to return our country to normalcy. And we would only be able to do that safely and in a cautious way if we are able to get more of our people vaccinated. While 50% vaccination of our adult population is quite an accomplishment, there is still a large number of adult Guyanese who are yet to be vaccinated. And there is no good reason why they are not being vaccinated or they are refusing to take the vaccines. So I once again use this platform to continue to appeal to continue to appeal to our population, those of you who have not yet been vaccinated, to get yourself vaccinated. I spoke to our teachers at every forum that I speak on this week Cash Care Grant, as well as when I was doing the Gold Scholarship Outreach Program. I appealed to our teachers to take their vaccines because it is important that we get our children back into schools. And if the teachers are not vaccinated, that will pose some problems. Let me say that the legal view out there is that the imposition, or rather the making the requirement to take the vaccine mandatory is not a violation of your rights. That seems to be the prevailing opinion of academics, not only in the region, but also in the United Kingdom. Let me repeat, if the government was to impose a mandatory obligation on citizens to take the vaccines, the government will not be violating the fundamental rights and freedoms of the citizens. That is the prevailing view of academics across the region. Professor Bell Antoine, one of the leading lights at the University of West Indies Faculty of Law, St. Augustine campus, wrote elaborately on this matter in newspapers across the region. Very detailed arguments, sound reasoning, supported by legal authorities. And that is her opinion. There is a case decided at the European Court of Human Rights along that same line. Remember, public policy is an important component of the legal framework of any country, and laws of any country will always be influenced by public policy considerations. And it's obviously in the interest of public policy and in the interest of the public that there be a greater number of vaccination. And the law will follow that logic, as the law normally does. So governments will soon be moving in that direction. Travel sanctions may soon be imposed right here in the Caribbean in relation to persons who do not have vaccines. In fact, what in effect is in force already are travel restrictions. Because if you do not have a vaccine, you cannot board the plane. Well, that will extend throughout the Caribbean, not only to aircrafts, but to public buildings. Leaders in the Caribbean have already voiced their opinions on this matter, and they have indicated that they will be moving in that direction unless there is some drastic change in the circumstances, and we are not seeing any drastic change in the circumstances. So I want to take this opportunity to continue to appeal to all of our people who have not yet been vaccinated to get your vaccines, both doses. I know there are a lot of people who have not gotten their second dose as yet. Please ensure that you get the second dose. Let me remind you that not a single person who has taken the vaccine has died. Not a single person who has been vaccinated has died. It means that the vaccines are working. And you have to be specially stupid. You have to be really reckless to continue to expose yourself to this deadly virus when there is a vaccine that you can have access to, free of cost. I don't know if you wish to die, that's a matter for you. I can only tell you that life is good and you should protect, if not yourself, the ones that you love. Because when you get the virus, you expose others. You expose your family. You expose your friends. You expose those with whom you come in contact. The Law Reform Commission has finally been, the members of the Law Reform Commission has finally been identified, and I've made those names public. You know, that commission was appointed through a process. The names were not handpicked. Those names came through a process outlined in the law. I had to write various organizations, the rights organizations, the labor movement, the religious organizations, the bar associations, the private sector commission, the consumer movement, and invite them to make recommendations of names whom they wish to have represent them on the commission. Of course, there were more organizations to be consulted than spaces on the commission. So I got more recommendees, more than space available. So in that respect, choices had to be made. And then, of course, His Excellency the President has two nominees whom he can identify in the exercise of his deliberate judgment, and he has done so. So we have a full complement, and hopefully during the course of next week or later this week, I'm not sure, the Law Reform Commission will be sworn in, and the persons will take their oath of office and will start the work. The commission will be located at 91 Middle Street, Georgetown. A sign will be erected shortly. A secretariat staff has already been appointed. There is a chief executive officer and our secretary to the commission. There is also a whole host of secretarial, clerical, and other staff. So that secretariat is in place, and the commission, once the commissioners and the chairperson take the oath of office, the commission will be fully complemented and will begin its work. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate all the commissioners and the chairman. The commissioners, as I recall them, rather the chairman. Let's start with the chairman. Is Justice of Appeal retired B.S. Roy. The other members of the commission are Tenny Usti, Clarissa Reel, Emily Dodson, Brian O'Toole, Dinawati Pandey, and Rupnarain Satram. I believe we have a broad-based commission there of persons representing diverse interests, and those are the names produced by the consultative process which I was mandated by law to engage in. I want to take this opportunity to extend congratulations to all the members of the Commission, and I wish them all the best. We are coming now to program time, and I want to take this opportunity to extend to all of our Muslim brothers and sisters Eid Mubarak greetings. Tomorrow is Eid, and our Muslim brothers and sisters will be celebrating this great sacrifice. I ask that we recall the great message that is associated with this great event, and that we try to use that message and inculcate it into our everyday life as we execute our individual and respective mandate. So, Eid Mubarak greetings to all our Muslim brothers and sisters, and indeed all of Guyana. This is where I have to say good night. I invite you to join me again next week for another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country. Thank you very much, and until we meet again, stay safe, stay good. Thank you.